Hello, Amelie. I will do an oral presentation of David Eckhart's text, The Real Story About Rosa Parks and Why We Need to Confront Myths About Black History. The text is written down of a TED talk that he did. So originally this was an oral thing, but I have decided to do an analysis of the text. Just short about the text, it is about this man who is a professor, and he talks about his son coming home from school. His son is not very old, and he just learned about Rosa Parks in his history class. So he comes home to his father, and he talks about what he learned and how fascinated he is about this. The tone of the text is very everyday use. He talks to the audience like you would normally talk, but he does have some serious inputs in the fact that this is a very serious topic for him, and that he has some points where he really needs it to be clear. Some of his main claims is that Black history is not represented enough and in the right way in the school systems, especially in American school systems. He obviously does not talk about other countries because he's American. So, but he could think that about other schools too. I have determined that the style of the text is speech, and I have done that on the fact that he is speaking to an audience, and that a TED Talk is sort of like a speech. It's usually a person preparing. You could also call it like teaching, but I have determined it as a speech. Some other elements that I have analyzed in this text is the ethos, logos, and pathos, and I have determined that he has ethos on the fact that he is an African American culture studies professor, and he also says, and I quote, "Now I am an African American culture studies professor," so he does know a bit about African American culture and history. So the fact that he has a problem with it, and the problem that it is not taught right, is probably not on the grounds that he just thinks that, but probably because he actually do know. His logos comes in with this quote: "Rosa Parks was not tired. She was not old. She certainly did not have tired feet." And he says this because of his son. His son came home and said that he had learned about Rosa Parks, and that she was an old, tired woman who sat down on this bus and then did not move when white people came and told her to. And the pathos is, but then I thought about it, and I got angry, and I got really angry. And this is also a quote from his text. And the pathos comes in a lot of forms. He has a lot of pathos. He feels very passionate about the subject, and you can really feel that while he's speaking and while reading the text. You really get the feeling that he's not kidding around. This is not for fun for him. This is actually his culture and his history being taught wrong in school, and his son coming home and having to explain to him that what he just learned was not correct, and then having to reteach it to his son, and then his son having to go to school and reteach it to his teacher, which I think that most parents would see as a problem, that they have to teach their children something that they were supposed to be taught in school. I have thought about the traditional African American style and then how that might be used in this text. And I have thought narrative secretin, the speaking like it is happening, and then he also uses humor and irony to push through his points. By the speaking like it's happening thing, he's speaking to the audience like he's talking to his son, like his son was right there. He's like, my son came home and he said, "Oh, Dad," and I said, blah blah blah. So he's he's speaking like his son would be right there, and that they're having this conversation right now in front of the audience, and that comes off as humoristic and ironic. And then the audience, they laugh, and now he's used some points. He uses other points too, but this is one example of a point that he is using to push through what he means. And then to put it in perspective to other things we've used in the class, the I Have a Dream speech sort of, well, this reminds me of the I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King Jr. Because Martin Luther King fought for African Americans' rights and for them to be acknowledged. So did Rosa Parks, and so does David Icahn a bit, in the form that he needs the school to teach his culture and his history in the right way, so they remain in the rights that they have. Not that people would take them away from them, but we need to remember exactly what happened and how it happened, for them for the history to not be forgotten, so we remember how bad it was and how it shouldn't be. And the fact that Rosa Parks is put in such a bad perspective of the school, they might think, oh, she was just an old, tired, angry woman, while in fact she wasn't, and that's wrong of them to think that. Yeah, that was my analysis of the text. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.